I just feel like during that time, I talk about peace a lot, but I didn't have any peace. Like now I have a lot of peace in my life, so it's even magnified. But back in that time of my life, being a gossip blogger, having to be on top of what everybody was doing, I was being a spectator to everybody's lives, right? Versus living my own. And it got to a point where it was just painful getting up just to check Instagram or just check anything just to see what people were doing and then figuring out how to report it. I was just like, this is not the life I signed up for.
This is the moment you've been waiting for. Everything that you've been praying for. You feel alone. You're gonna heal and come back strong. I know what you got. God got you. Your girls, we're here. We're with you. This is your battle. I know you're about to come back better. God don't miss. You're ahead. This is it. Come back, sis. I know the whole world told you. Come back, sis. You weren't enough, but you are. Come back, sis. This is your battle. I know you're gonna come back better. God don't miss. You're ahead. This is it.
Goodness.
How you doing? Oh, look. Oh my
It's been
gosh.
such a long time since I've
I
seen
know, right?
you. Yes. Look, did anybody get around to aging?
You sure haven't.
You could get around to aging on us, please. You look so beautiful.
Oh,
It's
you
so
do
good to see you.
too.
Do you remember when we first met?
I remember we've hung out a few times.
Yeah. It was years ago, right before, and I'm going to use this word lightly, right before you made your transition. And I remember, like, you were like, to me, I was like, who's this little doll? You were like a little doll. And you were so stinking sweet. It was almost ridiculous.
Oh, thank you.
I'd never forget that day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely.
Yeah, we've had some times together.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, but it's been so epic to watch your journey because I remember that day, if I can be honest, you kind of being like, I'm over it. Do you remember that time in your life, like right before we went from Necole B.I.T. to Necole? Do you remember that time?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me what it was like and how you made the decision to move from that to the very next step.
Man, how I made the decision to move from gossip blogger to
I wasn't even sure if it was okay to like say, yeah.
I just feel like during that time, I talk about peace a lot, but I didn't have any peace. Like now I have a lot of peace in my life, so it's even magnified. But back in that time of my life, being a gossip blogger, having to be on top of what everybody was doing, I was being a spectator to everybody's lives, right? Versus living my own. And it got to a point where it was just painful getting up just to check Instagram or just check anything just to see what people were doing and then figuring out how to report it.
Wow.
I was just like, this is not the life I signed up for. And so I think I was dealing with a lot of that visualize. Like I used to daydream about moving to an island and serving ice cream to people all day.
Really?
And just that would be happiness for me. That's how bad I wanted to not be doing what I was doing back then.
How does it feel when everybody thinks you have the best thing going on and you're like, but you don't even understand, like I'm ready to move from this?
Man, I think they just saw the celebrities. They saw like me flying all over the world on TV. But like I said, it was just way too much a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, is it hard to talk about? Like, when you think about it?
I'm trying to like recollect because it's so crazy to think that it's been 8 years since I that's wild to me.
Yeah. My transition that I had started 8 years ago too.
Really?
Yeah, and I remember it from like the first day all the way through it. Because every single day I was becoming the next version of myself. And every single day I remembered exactly who I was on day one.
Wow.
It was so uncomfortable to know that I was so disappointed, so freaked out by where I was at one point and where I had no idea I was going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. When you showed up and was like, you started doing your journey on YouTube about like getting into bodybuilding and get into bodybuilding space, I was, in my mind, I was like, it's like, that's her yes. That's her yes to the next whatever the hell's going on.
I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure it out. I think so. I moved out to Arizona to go through my transition. I knew I couldn't be in LA. Or it's crazy how we keep mentioning transition. When I think of transition, I think of like people dying, but I guess I was dying to my old self. But I had moved to Arizona because I knew if I was in LA or New York, people had this perception of, or this box they were going to put me in. And I really wanted to be committed to the new life. Yeah. I think I tweeted one day, you can't have one foot in your old life and one foot in your new life and expect change. You got to be fully committed to the new life. I had to be fully committed. And so I was living in Arizona, and I got into, like you said, the health space, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think because you said, around that time you were going through a personal transition, it's also like, how am I going to survive?
Oh my God.
How am I going to survive? Like, how am I going to make money?
Yeah. Am
I going to have to change my lifestyle? And honestly, in those moments, you have to be humble and be willing to, like, I've been in a space in my career, and it was just no less than 7 years ago, where I moved to New York with just 2 suitcases, and I was living out of someone's room for $600 a month.
Wow.
With other roommates. Like, it was a rotating door of roommates. And this is after Necole Vichy. So imagine like how I had to die to my ego just to, just to go back there. Like, that reminded me of before the success and fame.
Is that crazy?
Crazy.
Right.
And it was very temporary. Like, within four months or so, I ended up having my new website, Exo Necole at the time.
I remember when it came out. Because I remember the girl I met. I remember the look on her face. And I remember, oh my God, she's bodybuilding.
Like, what is she doing with herself?
No, not at all. In my head, it was like, she's going somewhere. I don't even, you know how you cheer from somebody from the sidelines? Yeah. That was the moment where I was like, go. Like, I pray to God she doesn't care what anybody thinks right now. Go.
I mean, that's why I was in Arizona. It would have been way harder I would have been way too plugged into what people thought if I was in New York or LA, around people who were familiar. But I'm in Arizona. I don't care what y'all doing in the rest of the world. I'm out here with these mountains and these trees.
Arizona is such like a tranquil place. Even like the stuff that's even underneath the ground is it almost like radiates.
Yeah, like the vortexes, like the mountains that... Yeah, it's such a spiritual place. Like, the reason why I chose Arizona was because I used to hear Oprah, Bevy Smith, all those people used to always go to Arizona for like healing.
Miracle, yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, what is out there? I don't know what's out there, but they keep talking about it. So I'm going to go out there.
I feel that way about Maui, like, and nobody tells you, like,
wow.
You don't, because it has all the vortexes, parts of Mexico. People don't realize, like, how connected you can be to the ground if you give yourself permission.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, you can actually heal. Remember, my sleeps were deeper. I would feel like I was sinking into the earth at night.
And where is this again?
Maui. I know you don't think of that when you think of Maui. You think of, I want to go on vacation or a honeymoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maui,
had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody goes to the cool side of Maui.
Yeah, okay.
I go to the part where there's waterfalls and forests and jungles.
Oh, yeah. I need that info.
Yeah. And you drive up into the mountains, or you sleep like at the very bottom of Hana. And when you go to bed, it's like you wake up and you're like, where am I? Where did I just go when I dreamt? So I love that. You have to find a place to kind of find yourself and give yourself permission to be yourself. Then you move to New York, you said.
The only reason why I moved to New York, I was going through an acquisition of my company. Like, so I was just trying to figure it out. Like, if this acquisition doesn't go through, what am I going to do? And so I was still trying to fight for my brand at the time, and just doing whatever it took.
Yeah. So XO Necole comes out and like, did you feel like you had to redefine yourself or did you already feel redefined?
No, I felt like that site was more in line with who I was becoming and who my audience was becoming. The ones that wanted to move past the gossip. Because with that site, we were talking about like mental health. We were talking about sex, relationships, dating. And when we first started, we were publishing a lot of personal stories from women. So like very first person point of views. And it was just so refreshing to me because I had did gossip for so long, and to like actually like see women talking about what they were going through and like I'm being touched or I'm learning stuff. I was like, okay, we got something special here. Like people felt like no one would read it because during that time, everybody was so celebrity oriented. They were like, what does Necole think she's doing with a site like this? I feel like it shifted the culture, to be honest.
It did shift the culture. How many people in our like industry moved into the mental health space, changed their websites? I remember Perez Hilton was like, okay, me too. Like it was just so many people who followed your footsteps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Trailblazer.com for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was obvious. So you were wondering if the company would get acquired. You moved past that space. How long from then till you started My Happy Flow? Like, what was the journey from there to My Happy Flow?
Man, well, what's so interesting when Will first reached, and I'm talking about Will Packer. Reached out.
We all saw it.
Yeah. When Will first reached out to me, I always got to tell this little part of the story. In 2016. A year after I shut down Necole Bitchie, I did a vlog, you know, and I was just talking about what I wish I had known before I sold a successful brand. And I guess I'm like tearing up in it. And I'm just talking about how I was losing so much money and talking about my mistakes in a very vulnerable way. Because a lot of times people, when they're going through a tough time, you don't hear about it until they're out of it. Yeah. So I was talking about it while I was in it. Yeah. And I think I went off to Vietnam on a trip. And during that time, that video went viral. But the headlines were more about Necole Bitchie from boss to broke. Or sad news for Necole Bitchie. Like, wow. I mean, it was like my biggest fear when I went through changing my brands was failing. Because I was like, if I fail, then people are going to be scared when they outgrow something. Or if they have success, but it no longer fulfills them, they're going to be scared to move, pivot, because I failed publicly, so I got to make it. And so, yeah, I saw those headlines, and I think it broke me. And I went through I remember being super depressed about it. But I feel like that video kind of put me on the radar of Will, because he reached out to me a few months later. And he wanted to work together in some capacity. But by then, I had started studying holistic nutrition, which ties into what I do now. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to help women like live healthier lives. So I was already thinking, look, this XO Necole thing ain't working for me.
Is that what you thought?
Yes, because I was running out of money.
From the outside looking in.
It didn't. Yeah. But I was running out of money because I self-funded the site. And I remember I started having resentment for the site because I self-funded it and it wasn't making money. And I felt any money I made, whether it was in my personal brand or XO Necole, had to go to paying writers or teams. So I was over it. Like,
can I ask you about that really quick? Because there's so many women who are entrepreneurs in the business space. And sure, you might get $100,000 or something, but people don't realize there's a whole team of people that you hand this $100,000 out to.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you still have to figure out how to pay taxes.
That part. And when you're in the product space, you're always in debt. Always. Always.
What do you mean when you
always
say
in
that?
the negative? You can see brands out here and they're in all the stores, right? All the retail. You can see them, and their product is in, Target, Walgreens, whatever. But if you look at their books, they're $3 million in debt of all the people that had to, borrow from, loans, etc. So even now, my business is doing well, but in reality, we about $300,000-400,000 in debt, business debt. Because you always gotta pay up front for inventory. Yeah. And so, and the more your brand grows, the more inventory you gotta buy. If you go into retail wants you to front the cost of sending product to them, they don't pay you for 90 days, 3 months later.
I hear this all the time, but I want them to hear it from you.
Yeah, so you will go out of business and it's hard for women of color to get not just funding, but loans. I just got a loan from the government, but I've been trying to get that loan for 2.5 years.
Wow. Why are you so comfortable saying this and other people can hear it? Why are you this vulnerable? Why are you this transparent?
Because nobody was transparent when I...
Boom.
Because let me tell you, if I knew, I don't know if I'd be doing this right now. So maybe
oh my God. So you would have been like, don't tell me because...
Everything I've done from a place of being naive. Like when I started Necole, if I knew it was going to be as hard as it was, I wouldn't have started it. So I think it's kind of good that I didn't know the extent of what it took to build a media company or the extent of what it took to build a supplement brand.
Yeah.
And there's not many women that look like me in this vitamins and supplement space.
Right.
Especially not hormone health. I'm the only Black woman I know that's in the hormone health vitamins space that's growing the brand in the way that I'm growing it.
Yeah. Tell me about My Happy Flow. You said it came after the Necole you felt like was losing money. Did it get acquired by Will Packer?
Necole got acquired by Will Packer. During that time, I was in New York living out of $600. And I want to stress I was living out of a $600 a month room. Because sometimes you got to do what you got to do to save your business.
Come on here.
And some people will create a lifestyle that they become a slave to. So, you know, I couldn't be in this big 5-bedroom house and can't pay my writers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they were going to come first. And whatever I had to do, if that meant I had to give up I had a Range Rover at the time. I drove it to a CarMax and traded it in for cash just so that I can pay writers.
Wow, Necole, that's crazy.
And a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I said to myself, I was like, whatever you give up, God is going to replace tenfold. You got to believe that. I remember having like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth of clothing that I had donated to St. Jude. And the guy came by like, he's like, can I bring my girlfriend over here before we... because he was looking like, why is she getting rid of all this like designer stuff? But I heard a quote. It was like, if a snake doesn't shed its skin, it perishes. I had to shed.
You'll be squeezed, suffocated by your skin.
I had to shed the skin of all the Necole bitchy days, the celebrity gossip days. That was the clothing I had, the car, anything that I had acquired. I had to come away from that a new person.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a very humbling experience. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't isolate myself, in Arizona. So I didn't have anyone. See, I don't think anybody knew that I moved to New York and was in that place for 4 or 5 months. No one knew. And so, yeah.
Wow. Thank you for your transparency. I just have to say that out loud to you in your face. Yeah, because I know what it feels like for the world to watch you go from one thing to a complete another.
Absolutely.
And they have I know what it feels like to be like, my team comes first. I know what it feels like to say, I sure would like to spend that on this, but there's 11 people who have to pay
first. Yeah.
And it looks like, just $600 to this person, and just but by the time you add it up and you get to that, it's $80,000, they don't realize you had to take out a loan to make sure that they were good.
Yeah.
And then you're paying it 2 times over because those quick business loans, your first one as a Black girl, because a lot of stuff is not available to us, or there's a whole bunch of restrictions that keep us out. The interest is 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 and 70.
We got to talk about that for half a second, because a lot of people don't know that those business loans that you are offered, especially if you're under 3 years old, if they give you $100K, they want you to pay that $100K back in a year. Now,
Nobody knows this.
Now, if you divide 12 by $100K, you're already at around 9 or 10K a month. But you forgot the interest,
sis,
and the interest is 20 or 30%. So now you're paying $130 back on a $100,000 loan within 12 months.
Stress.
It's built to keep you under the water.
Can I ask you this? Because this is something, has there ever been a point where you've got this loan and you have this debt? Because I'm hearing a lot about debt. You've got this loan, you've got this debt, and you can't pay it that month?
I thankfully haven't been there. Yeah, I mean, as a business, you will like get real close to zero a couple of times. Like, oh, this bank account about to be zero. I just came from a college program out in Ivy League school, Dartmouth College, and Shea Moisture sponsored 10 or 11 of us that are in the product-based business space, Black women. Shout out to never mind, because I just I know it's not sponsored. Okay. But I say all this to say it's not until I get around a group of women that's where I am, because like regular people don't understand this, and you hear the stories of, honey, I was glad they didn't make me pay for anything because them cars would have been declined, right? And you're talking about like businesses that you see in retail, they're $3, $4, $5 million businesses, but the reality is the debt is crazy.
That's encouraging to myself and to a lot of people.
Because if you don't hear that, then when you're going through the motion, you can't get a business loan, or if you do, it's the predatory ones. Then you feel like it's just like, why is it such a struggle for me? And I see all these brands out here. It's not really set up for you to thrive unless you raise money.
Yeah. Talk to me about raising money. And is that how you got the funding for My Happy Flow? Like, how did that work?
No, I self-funded every brand.
Jesus,
every brand that you've seen me launch was self-funded. And
because
first of all, the first two, I didn't know anything about investing. I didn't know anything about how to even get investors. I wouldn't have sold my brand 2 years in. And I don't want to say it like it's a regret.
Got it.
This brand is still thriving today, and I'm no longer a part of it. And, you want to build things that's going to live beyond you. But if I could go back and do it again now, knowing what I know now, I would have raised capital first, because every time you raise capital, you raise your valuation. So if you're just a $300,000 company, but if you raise money, now you might be a $2 million company.
Yeah.
Or, we saw Slutty Vegan, they raised $25 million. That put them at a $100 million valuation, because your valuation is like maybe 4 times what you raised. It matters because you're going to sell your site
one day. You're going to sell it, yeah.
And you want the highest number on the other side. Well, I skipped all that and I went straight to selling my site. That means I didn't get a lot for it. It wasn't worth a lot.
Do you remember that number? And do you remember how long that number lasted?
Oh, first of all, I will talk about this when you're negotiating and stuff. What's interesting, people don't know when people sell their stuff, it's not just flat cash a lot of times. A lot of times they do a payment plan. They try to split it in like 2, 3, 4 years. Second, they're part cash and part stocks in the parent company that bought you.
Okay.
So you might get it. And it's cool because you might get a payday way years later if that parent company sells majority ownership or sells their site. But I didn't know any of this stuff before.
She's pretty and she's smart.
People didn't break this stuff down to me. You know what I mean? Now it's more talk around it, especially since brands like Mielle, I think that's how you pronounce it, sold her company. It was all this like rah-rah about it. You have to know if someone raises money, they have to have an exit strategy. No investor is going to give you money without knowing you want to exit your company probably in the next 5 to 7 years. They want their money back or go public. And so I think that was missing out of the conversations because we always were not complaining, but just protesting and frustrated about the lack of funding available to Black women. But when Black women sell their companies, then there's this, it was such a disconnect in education. I think, when it comes to how we grow and scale our brands.
Is that one of your big passions?
What, like the education behind it? Or one of my passions is just, like I said, being as transparent as possible, because when I sold my site, the only person that I knew that was a Black woman that sold her site was Carol's daughter, Lisa Price. And it was this big thing about she sold out. So there was just not any conversations that was going to help me on my journey out there. Now there's more, but
Talk to me about My Happy Flow. How did that start? Where did it come from? Like, was it a download?
Yeah.
What did it look like in your mind?
It's an interesting story. I'm gonna try to make it as condensed as possible. But I held my mom's hand as she took her last breath. She passed away from breast cancer. She was only 41 years old. I had lost my father just a year and a half, 2 years later, 2 years earlier, and he was 42. So I had two parents that died by the time they were 42. I have no living grandparents, and all the deaths in my family were health related. Complications that were preventable if we had the right education, but we didn't. And so I saw them on medications for years or having surgeries, but it would always lead to them dying. So I knew there had to be a better way. And I wanted to break the generational health curse that was in my family. And so when I was out there in Arizona, I'm starting to do the studying. You know, I read this book, You Are What You Eat, about a doctor who patients would come to him on her on their deathbed, and she would nurse them back to health through whole foods and vitamins. So that's where I first got the like a download.
Got it.
And I had went to a holistic doctor just because I was working in the entertainment industry. You know, that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Eating once a day, if that.
Okay.
So my period had disappeared, but when I went to the doctor, they ran all my blood work, and she literally said to me, like, if you continue down this path, I was severely dehydrated, severely malnourished. You might have the same fate as your parents. And I was 35 at the time. This is 7 years away from, you know, my mom and father passing away. And so the holistic doctor gave me a custom vitamin formulation based on what my blood work was. And within a couple of days, like I came alive.
Somebody wants to know, was it Chinese herbal medicine? What kind of exactly?
She was a holistic doctor, and I accidentally found her. Like, I thought she was a regular doctor. I was just going to figure out what was going on with me.
Yeah.
But it was the first time, you know, my family had always been given medications. I'm getting a vitamin blend.
Yeah.
I'm like, sis, you want me to take these vitamins?
Yeah.
And it's supposed to do something? But it did. It brought me back to life. So that's when I got very interested in vitamins and supplementation. Like, if anything hurting on your body, I could tell you what you're deficient in. I got that obsessed with vitamin. Oh, that's a potassium deficiency.
Yeah.
Oh, you need magnesium. And so to tie it back into My Happy Flow, I'm trying to figure out how I can not get breast cancer. And I started studying hormones, and I realized, you know, breast cancer tumors, fibroids, it starts with hormonal imbalances. And that ties into also our periods. If our periods are painful, heavy, bloating, mood swings, it's a sign that we have hormonal imbalances and higher risk for fibroids, higher risk for breast cancer tumors.
Yeah.
So after, you know, just studying the hero ingredients in My Happy Flow, which is, one is called DIM and one is called indole-3-carbinol. Those are the hero ingredients. You can find those in broccoli, cauliflower, those type of veggies, but you'd have to eat 2 pounds a day to get the amount that the supplement has in it.
Got it.
But those ingredients were highly studied at NIH to prevent cancer, breast cancer tumors, cervical, and colon cancer. Well, I threw them in
a pill.
I threw them in a pill. And the reason why, like, when I got my late 30s, all of my friends were being diagnosed with fibroids. And not only that, 3 of them were recommended hysterectomies. And they wanted kids. And they were heartbroken by it. And so one of them, she was a newlywed. She really wanted to have kids. And I told her about the ingredients, like, because they wanted to take her uterus and they were like, you really don't have a choice. You have a precancer in your fibroids. Most of the time, fibroids don't have cancer. Don't have cancer in them.
Benign, right?
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So she took the ingredients for 3 months and she changed her diet. Went back. They couldn't find the fibroid or the cancer anymore.
Wow. Do you know how large the fibroid was?
They were probably 2 smaller ones, but I will say I've had a number of customers, and I post these on the My Happy Flow Instagram, like videos. One girl, she went in for she was taking My Happy Flow for 4 months, went in for her surgery. They couldn't find the fibroids.
You gotta be kidding me.
There's another one that was on a wait list for a hysterectomy. She no longer needs the surgery.
Are you serious?
And then I get these customer testimonials all the time. I don't play up the fact that this product has helped women shrink fibroids. And the reason why is estrogen, our hormone estrogen is what feeds fibroids. Our product, the ingredients I told you about, actually it metabolizes estrogen. So it gets rid of the excess estrogen in your body. So your fibroids don't have anything to feed off of anymore. They start shrinking.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, some people, they're, you know, it depends on stress levels too.
Yeah.
Your diet. You know,
talk to us about diet, because everybody wants to know. Like, they're like, okay, then Necole, what should I eat?
What should I eat? Especially women of color that very high risk for fibroids. I would say omit meat and dairy unless the meat is grass fed, because they have hormones in them, and those hormones is what feeds the fibroids. I would tell them to get off of birth control. Birth control has synthetic hormones. Those accelerate fibroid growth.
Can we talk really quickly about hormones? Because I tell people this all the time. I say, because I went from the vegan lifestyle to bringing meat back into my life, but I only want to eat it if it's hormone free. Yeah. Like the stuff you put into this animal goes into my body next.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like that guy that was on, I don't know, one of those Netflix shows, and he was a farmer. He was like, baby cow milk is not meant for human consumption. Yeah. We give baby cow, you know, blows this cow up so that we can get more milk out of it. And to an enormous size. Why would us
you're
as humans,
wondering why there are things growing on the inside of your body.
And there's a doctor, I think his name is Dr. P, a black guy out of Chicago that does fibroid surgery on black women. And a lot of people are going to them because of his technique. But he actually puts videos on Instagram, and he shows the tumors coming out of their body as he's doing the surgery. And I feel like it's important that he shows that, because people don't really understand what women with fibroids are actually carrying. Yeah. Like, some people, I know people who have gotten 80 fibroids removed. Wow. You know, and she said it before, but DJ Olivia Dope was her former name. She's in the entertainment industry, very well sought out DJ, and she's having to do these gigs with 80 tumors in her body. You know, very heavy periods, very painful. It affects so many areas of your life. You know, your intimacy, your sex life, your body image,
favorite subjects,
confidence, all of that. And so for me, it's about helping women have a better quality of life. And it starts with your period. Your period, I have to say this, your period is your body's monthly report card. Yeah. If your period's painful, something's going on inside. It's normally an underlying condition, hormonal imbalances, micronutrient deficiencies.
Yeah. You're a whole doctor.
I had to do my research, honey, because let me tell you, I've outlived my parents, and I've never been diagnosed with any of the health conditions in my family. And we had every health condition out there.
Yeah. So your fitness journey was serious for
you. It introduced me to supplementation first, which made me curious. So without that fitness journey, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, because you didn't have to give us what life taught you. You didn't have to give us what you figured out for yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I had some crazy experiences. It taught me this, helped me to create this, and now I want to give it to you.
Yes. And to be honest, what I don't talk about enough is just how scary this calling is for me. First of all, when I first started it, I had imposter syndrome. Who's going to believe a former celebrity gossip blogger that's talking about hormone health? Wow. You know what I mean? So I had to go off and get the certifications and study. And and I had a lot of, now when I talk to people though, they're like, you know what you're talking about. Like, oh, you know what you're talking about. But I had imposter syndrome, and I don't anymore, because men lie, women lie, them testimonials don't. And I have a lot of my customers that are getting blood work frequently. So we see how even their iron levels change from taking the supplement after a month or two. And so when you have that many powerful testimonials, people can say whatever, like, you know, it works. Yeah. I know it works. I'm confident in the product.
There's a woman listening, and she's wondering, how do I prove that I really am what I say? Did you talk about imposter syndrome? feeling like I need to go get certifications, kind of like letting my journey look like what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to the girl who's like, I really am what I'm saying I am now?
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because I struggled with my identity going into the hormone health space. I'm Googling, like, I want to know what founders of vitamin companies look like. Well, first of all, ain't a lot of women founders either.
Yeah.
But I'm like, wait, do I have to be in yoga pants? Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to figure out what the pictures, the imagery supposed to be like. Like, you know, like, even right now, I feel I'm a little hip hop-ish. Like, you know, with my
Give it to
sweatpants.
him. Give it to
But
him.
I'm like, I'm thinking about how wild it was. Because even when I sold my website to Will Packer, I'm trying to figure out what media moguls look like. Now I'm trying to adapt to this. So I'm looking at like Morgan. I'm looking at a few people, like, how do they carry themselves? How do they talk? How do they dress?
Wow.
Let me go buy a blazer.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, girl,
Just to you?
I just want to be me, whatever that is. Like, I don't want to feel like I have to dress a certain way or look a certain way and talk a certain way to be this wellness founder, right? And so I feel like I'm living more in my authentic truth of who I am now.
Yeah.
And before I was trying to be just something else.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My favorite thing to do on this podcast so far is hear stories of women who took the time to figure it out, felt a little crazy in between each moment, and then got to the next part, and then got to the next part. So many people give up at the first part. They're like, you know what? I don't want to do Necole bitchy anymore. XO Necole. Okay, bye guys. Some people would have stopped at the $600 apartment. Some people would have stopped at I sold my company to Will Packer. Some people would, like, there were so many moments where some people would have stopped. It's like you lived 4 lives.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so do you feel like, and then I got to my happy flow? Like, is that the, whew, my happy flow, finally?
I don't feel like I'll feel that way until I have a family. Like, you know, now I'm going to cry. Sorry.
It's been so much crying on the show. Don't worry. It's fine. So there's so many people are looking at you saying, she's finally gotten to her dream. And you're saying, when's the love part?
Yeah. Like, I was like, I know God didn't put... Sorry. I need some water, but... Oh.
You got some.
Some water, honey. Sorry.
It's okay.
But I know I've had conversations where I was like, I know God didn't give me these big dreams that are pouring into other people. But don't, like, I know I wasn't just put on this earth to work and create these brands. Like, there has to be a deeper meaning. And that's where I'm at. Like, this last year, I've noticed I've almost shrank myself because I feel like to step into who God wants me to be in this season, it's going to be too big for a lot of people.
Wow.
And so I shrank myself because I didn't want to be intimidating to whoever my future husband was. Like, I know people say don't do it, but it's like, I'm over 40 now. Like, and so I shrank myself in every aspect of my life. I didn't even want to be visible anymore because I felt like the more visible I am, the more I'm doing podcasts. That's why I keep saying no to podcasts.
Thank you for hanging with us.
Well, for me having one specifically, because I feel like the more visibility I have, the harder it is for me to date. People already Google you and they start clocking like what they think your value is, what you own, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Buckhead, and I do that on purpose. That's not intimidating.
Isn't that interesting?
Me having a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom mansion would be intimidating.
Yeah.
And so my car is 10 years old. That's not intimidating.
Yeah.
Me having a certain make and model of car, wow, that's intimidating. And so I've just been just shrinking.
Yeah. And the thought is a successful woman can't be loved.
Exactly.
It's
just
crazy?
harder. Yeah, definitely harder. You got to find people who are comfortable and confident in not only who you are, but who you're becoming. Like, again, every time I hear these testimonials from women and just what my company represent, I know I can have a $1 billion company one day.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, what do I have to give up to have that $1 billion company? And the reality is I'd probably have to give up wanting a family.
Wow.
To grow my brand in the way I want to grow it.
I think the same thing every day. I do. And I'll go on a date and I'll be like, as soon as I tell him what I want to do next, this is over. And it lasts 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long until they realize you're driven.
Oh, man.
And so you do the 1-bedroom apartment. You do the Chevy Malibu. Like you do the like, I'm just going to come out in my sweats.
Yeah.
Let's just check out a movie. Don't worry, we don't have to go to this restaurant.
Exactly.
Let's get breakfast at Cracker Barrel.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm scared you're going to be scared of me and you won't want me because you don't think you can take care of me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I never said I don't need a man. That's just what everybody else is saying. And so that's what you decided to believe about me.
Absolutely.
It's not fair.
It's not.
It hurts.
That's reality.
Yeah.
It's our reality. And so I'm just in a very interesting space. I don't think we talk about it enough, but that space between who you once were and who you're becoming. Mm-hmm. And you have to have this like duality. Like, sometimes I remember a friend text me and she said, you've worked your way up to first class, but you keep walking back to economy. And again, that's an example of me maybe dating someone based on who I used to be versus who I'm becoming.
Oh my God.
Because it's more comfortable. Yeah.
That's so good. I'm dating based on who I used to be.
Yeah. Based on, I done stepped it up a little bit recently, but
yeah.
But yes, I was dating based on and imagine who I was as Necole Bitchy.
Right.
Definitely, I'm attracting a whole different person right now as Necole Kane, the founder of My Happy Flow.
Come on here.
A totally different man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that man I might have dated in the Necole Bitchy days might be more comfortable for me.
Yeah. Comfortable for you. Wow. I'm sorry. There's women watching. There's me sitting here saying, me too. Me too. I totally get it. Thank you for that vulnerability today. Thank you for blessing so many of us with your story today. Thank you for letting us know that we're not alone in going from journey to journey to journey. If we're 37, we're not too old to have still been living and moving and shaking and figuring it out. Sometimes we feel like we're 6 different people in one lifetime.
Man.
And then it's like, how do I describe myself to the person I hope loves me?
Absolutely.
What do I say to them?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so proud of myself because I'm in therapy weekly now. And I'm just so proud of like my becoming.
Yeah.
And like I said, I just came back from a program, but now I'm leaving it in God's hands. Like, God, you gave me this calling. It's very special. You could have gave it to anybody in the world, but you chose me. And I'd be doing a disservice if I don't step into it fully because I'm scared of not being able to find or to meet my soulmate. God. And so I'm going to trust you're going to put him in my path while I am on the path of purpose that that God has given me. So I've surrendered to it. I'm not going to obsess over it or shrink myself anymore. Like, it's time. It's go time. It's time to push my brand in the way I want to. And I just know if we were to like reunion a year from now, you'll be like, girl, look at all you done. So I can't wait until like a year from now, looking back on knowing I felt this way and knowing I was shrinking myself, but also giving myself the opportunity to just see how big I can be.
Staying curious. I would call that staying curious. Wow. Because you have had so many different places where people could find you, where do you like to say, find me now at?
I'm just Hello Necole across all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, all the things. And then My Happy Flow is consistent across all platforms as well. Okay. But I definitely say if you're a woman that has, just heavy flows, prolonged periods, missing periods, fibroid pain, endometriosis, PCOS, definitely look into My Happy Flow. I think I brought you some today too.
Did you?
Wait,
really?
it's your birthday?
Today's my
didn't
birthday.
know it was your birthday.
Thank
But
you.
I brought you some. I did.
Thank you.
Because I feel like you mentioned something on Instagram.
I did, yeah. I had PCOS and endometriosis, and I had to have one of my ovaries removed because the PCOS, or the polycystic ovarian cysts, were, long story short, weighing down my ovary on one side.
Yeah.
So they had to take it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think people like sent me your post and tagged me on it. And it had to have been in the last 2 years because I had My Happy Flow by then.
Yeah. The last time I said that was probably a few months ago.
Oh, okay.
I had been in a magazine article once before where we talked about it, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
I brought you some product.
Thank you. Thank you.
Super
I'll
excited
definitely
for you to
try
try
it
it.
and let
Yes.
you know how it works out for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Come back, sis. Peace.
This is the moment you've been waiting for. Everything that you've been praying for.